What is going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. My name is Pure Noble. I am just going to give you a quick update of all the main things that are going to be changing with Season 2's update. I know everyone has limited time in their day. They can't watch a full 30-minute video to talk about every single detail that's going to come with Season 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to summarize everything there is of things that you should know for Season 2, such as weapon changes, equipment changes, perk changes, a whole lot. I'm just going to go down the list. This is what we're going to be talking about in this video. We're going to talk about the Ricochet updates. We're going to talk about the playlist updates, rank play, crossplay changes, general Warzone changes, quality of life updates, experience gain changes, movement changes, perk adjustments, equipment changes, overall weapon changes, and weapon buffs and nerfs. Before we get into the video, guys, if you guys are new to the channel, I invite you to subscribe so you can see more videos on tips and tricks and everything Call of Duty news and updates, as well as the hacking scene. And then if you got a moment, please drop a like on this video. It's free to do and it helps the video tremendously in the YouTube algorithm. All right, thank you so much. So I'm glad in the patch notes the very first thing that they address is anything in regards to the Ricochet and the anti-cheat update, but unfortunately when you actually read the breakdown of what they're talking about, the only thing that they've mentioned again that they've mentioned before is upgraded detection models to catch aimbot behavior, stricter account trust, hardware IDs to catch repeat offenders, upgrades to their kernel level drivers, and server-side systems. Like I said, it's the same bullshit that they mentioned on the previous season, and you know, with Season 2 being live, let's see. I haven't started playing the game yet. I'm currently updating right now, but I'll give you guys an update later on. So starting with the playlist update, going from January 28th to February 20th, rank play BR trios is on Urzikstan, battle royale, solos, duos, and quads is also on Urzikstan. Resurgence, you're gonna have solos, duos, trios, and quads on Rebirth Island, and only quads on Area 99, and then for plunder, quads on Urzikstan. Alright, so starting with the first major change that everyone is excited about for Season 2 is the ability to turn crossplay off in Warzone rank. So what they did is for both PlayStation and Xbox, they added these additional settings. The first setting is going to be regular crossplay being on. Second one is crossplay on but console only. And then they even have a third playlist where it's crossplay off with all other consoles besides their own native consoles. So if you're Xbox, you're only going to play with Xbox players, or if you're PlayStation, you're only going to be playing with PlayStation players. So I think it's a really good dub. It's a very good way to get the overall console base away from the main cheating base, which is PC. Unfortunately, you know, I am a PC gamer, so there is a little bias, but I understand the realities that majority of the cheating does stem from the PC side. Then moving on to the main general changes on the Warzone side, buy stations. All buy stations, including deployable and standard ones, now close at the beginning of the final circle announcements, as well as deployable boxes. So the utility boxes, you are no longer able to place them if they are outside of gas. I think this is a really good change because this limits the amount of people trying to camp buy stations at the very end for final circle, trying to bring teammates back, or like spamming gas masks or utility boxes so that they can make stim plays to essentially outgas the enemy team. And then they did adjust some of the player XP and weapon XP experience that you get based on the mode that you play. So if you are playing Battle Royale, you're actually going to get increased player XP and then increased weapon XP by 7 and 10%. But if you play Resurgence, because it plays more like a TDM and you have a higher chance of gaining points because it's such a very intense battle where you can stack up points really fast, they actually decreased player experience by -8%, but they did still keep the weapon increase by 10%. And then for Plunder, they decided to focus player XP instead of weapon XP because they did increase the player XP by 22%, but they dropped the weapon XP decrease by 13%. And they do have several quality of life improvements, but I'm only going to mention the main ones that I think is fairly important. Is that for the advanced UAVs, they finally added elevation arrows, so that way you can tell if the player is above you or below you. For an advanced UAV, I think that's very valid. You can actually ping buyback flares, so if the enemy team does a buyback, you can actually ping that to let the other team know, hey, enemy team does a buyback, be ready for any players that are coming down. And then they also added additional detailed weapon stats. New stats have been added and the layout has been redesigned to prioritize data clarity and accessibility, which I think for a lot of Call of Duty nerds who like to study, you know, damage factors and everything about the weapons, this is really good too. Two movement changes they're introducing in Season 2 is that they're increasing both the jump speed and jump height with an additional successive jump after that, which, you know, to summarize everything, they're bringing back bunny hopping. And the second one is reducing parachute animation times. With those, anytime that you cut the parachute, pull the parachute, drop from the parachute, it's reducing all of that animation time, so that way you can get to the ground and fight ready faster. And then starting for season 2, the first new perk that they're going to introduce is called reactive armor. Basically, your armor will regenerate up to 50% if you are out of battle for about 5 seconds. But there are other perks that have been adjusted. So starting with tracker, pings have been replaced with an outline that is not visible through walls but still appear on targets through smoke. And then for the dexterity perk, it is actually moving from a perk slot to be a base perk for all Warzone players. That means you don't have to use that perk slot 1 to equip dexterity. You're already going to have it. They're also bringing back the fan favorite Mountaineer, so that one is going to be in perk slot 1. So in place of dexterity, you can now use Mountaineer. And then for veteran, they now provide significant damage reduction against the effects of gas grenades. And then moving on to all the equipment changes in Warzone, the main ones is you got the thermal barrel grenade, has the radius and damage buff. We got the frag grenade where inner and mid damage has been nerfed, but the outer damage has been buffed. We also got a gas grenade movement debuff nerf, and then we got the stim shot with a velocity nerf when you are using it while you're side strafing. Some of the general weapon changes that is coming with season 2 is we're going to have increased reload speeds from 5 to 20%. Bullet penetration has been standardized, so you won't have to worry or wonder if that wall is bangable or not. Reduce sprint to fire speeds, and then reduce aim down sight speed. So the overall weapon mobility and utility as well as bullet penetration have all been buffed for this season. Alright, moving on to the main part of this video is the weapon nerfs and buffs that is coming with season 2. Now I'm going to put all these nerfs and buffs on the screen right now. I want you to screenshot it, save it, that way you can save yourself some time. But if anything, I'm going to read the list and tell you everything that has been nerfs and buffs. Now starting with the ARs, we got the AK-74 has a damage range, ADS, and sprint to fire buff. We got the AIM-85 has a damage multiplier buff. We got the AS-VAL has a reload speed buff. We got the Goblin MK2 has a damage range, velocity, and damage multiplier buff. We got the GPR-91 has a damage range, ADS, and sprint to fire nerf. We got the Model L has a damage range and multiplier buff. And we got the XM4 finally has a damage range and multiplier nerf, along with the 100 round mag now has an ADS nerf. In my opinion, it should have been a sprint to fire nerf instead. And then we also have the buffer stock stats have been reduced. It hasn't been removed, but it has been reduced. Now moving on to the SMGs, now the C9 has had a huge nerf. It has damage range, ADS, sprint to fire, velocity, and a multiplier buff. We got the Jackal PDW has a damage range, multiplier, and velocity nerf. The Compact 92 has an ADS and sprint to fire buff. The KSV has a damage range, ADS, sprint to fire, and velocity buff. We get the PP919 has a damage range and multiplier nerf. Then there's only been one LMG that is affected with this update. That's going to be the XMG, and it's just the buffer stock nerf that I mentioned before about the decreased stats. And then the last one is the pistol, which is the 9mm PM, has a damage range and multiplier buff. And that is it, guys. That's basically all the weapon buffs and nerfs that's going to be happening with season 2. All the weapon changes, all the equipment changes, all the new perks, all the new perk adjustments, and as well as the anti-cheat updates. So let's hope that because Activision decided to cut down the content on the Warzone side for season 2, that a lot of these changes and issues are going to be implemented and fixed so that we can get a better overall Call of Duty experience. Am I hopeful? Yes. Am I doubtful? Also yes. All right. If anything, guys, have a good one. Noble out.